Hey everyone, today we are here with another AMA session. The platform we are going to focus today is Sensei AI, and actually we have covered this platform in our channel before, and you have showed great interest to the project, so we have an AMA session at Sensei AI today. So actually in the video I told you that Sensei AI is at the forefront of digital immortalization, and they have digital replicas to sustain this platform. They have a cutting edge technology, big partners, big supporters, and as I have mentioned in the video, their replicas are very robust, and actually I could have talked with the replica of Dan Thompson himself, but for the first time I thought it would be better to ask the questions to him directly. So here with me today is the CEO of Sensei AI, Dan Thompson. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, good to meet you, and well, thanks for everyone who's watching.
Yeah, I hope you're doing well. I'm sure you're very busy. So if you don't mind, I want to straight into the questions directly.
Sure, let's go for it.
Yeah. So I talked about Sensei AI in my video, and I really, I was really interested in the technology that you have brought into the crypto space, which I haven't seen in the crypto space before. And your approach to these digital replicas are quite innovative, especially in the dementia care. And I really like this aspect of healthcare and health benefits as well. So can you share more about Sensei's technology, specifically how it helps dementia patients and their families at the same time?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, as you say, Sensei is a digital replication platform where we create lifelike AI, autonomous digital replicas that
Mhm.
are on chain. And the first use case that we've actually developed out for this technology
Mhm.
is dementia care. So it's not a cure by any stretch of the imagination, but it's one of the first things that dementia patients get told to do when they get diagnosed is to start recording down their life stories to
Mhm.
keep their brain active, to preserve some of themselves, whether they turn that into like a life book or whether it's just to keep their brain moving and talking about themselves and remembering things. Um, Typically this can be very difficult for them because
Mhm.
obviously dementia, the ability to focus, their ability to type or write just goes out the window, and other methods of recording this information are a bit clunky, or you just have to end up recording loads of videos or voice, which doesn't really give
Mhm.
much use to people. They'd have to watch all the videos later on. Or you could end up paying someone to come and, like a journalist or a ghostwriter, $10,000 or $15,000 to write you your life story, which is just obviously extremely cost prohibitive. So what we've done is we've immortalized dementia patients essentially as digital replicas, who, when they can interact with our training bots,
Mhm.
which can either be as our friendly, inquisitive Athena training bot, or they can be in the form of someone they know. Um, so they can essentially have these conversations with someone they know over text, voice, soon to be video as well, and all the stories, everything that they say, will get recorded and preserved into their own
Mhm.
chatbot as a replica. And the amazing thing about this is that we can actually track cognitive decline through the dashboard to enable carers to uh, see when things are getting worse. We can helps with things like daily tasks, daily
Mhm.
reminders. Also, there's a big loneliness issue with dementia patients. So if they wake up in the middle of the night, they're confused, we can ping them a message in the form of someone they know saying, "Do you want to talk?" And pretty soon we'll actually be able to do that over live phone calls, and then live videos will be not too far after that. So you'll literally be able to have a live conversation with one of the replicas in the form of one of their family or friends, over a phone call 24/7 for as long as they want to. People are busy. I know it sounds horrible to say that people are too busy for their elders with dementia, but sometimes it just is the case. So having the ability for them to have constant contact with familiar faces
Mhm.
is a huge step in this. So yeah, for dementia care, it's a strange, you don't hear about many health tech solutions in Web3, but
Definitely. Yeah.
uh, it's nice to offer that as a first use case for our fundamental technology. But
Mhm.
beyond that use case, we have so many different options as well.
Yeah, I mean, what makes Sensei really unique is that you focus on the dementia. I mean, AI technology has been around for around 2 years, maybe, in the series business, but so far I haven't seen that they focus on healthcare. Videos, photos, generation, these kinds of things are the what people focus. But dementia and healthcare is a great addition to that. But Sensei is not only dementia about dementia care, actually.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, healthcare does kind of get overlooked, and with AI has been around for a long time.
Hmm.
Not just last, obviously the last like year and a half in the very public way, but it's
Yes.
been around for a while. The Yeah, other AI in healthcare is there. I mean, it's in like bio research, analytics, coming up with new medications, new chemicals all the time, and just data analysis on mass
Hmm.
scale now. But yeah, so beyond that, you've got simple use cases for it. We can move beyond dementia to offer the same service to anyone with any kind of terminal illness. So
Hmm.
any patients of any like terminal illness, and then beyond that, pretty much everyone. Um, it's also even for people who are already passed. So we've actually got one corporate client who wants to use our service to essentially put QR codes onto tombstones in Israel, um, to offer essentially a living, well, an immortalized version of the person that's buried there, so that anyone can interact with them. Just to get to know them better. Otherwise, it's just a name. So they want to basically create this QR code that brings up like their photos, their videos, but also their replica to interact with. So it creates essentially like like digital immortality for them, a way of like preserving who
Yeah.
they are for a lot longer. So that's really cool. But no, I mean, as I was kind of saying, the technology itself is a foundational technology
Hmm.
that we're building so that other people can build on top of it, and we want them to. There's so many applications for this, so many different use cases that we just wouldn't have time to get them done ourselves. So what we're doing is we're focusing on quality replication of people so that other people can use it for different use cases via an API, simply enough. Everything from job hunting,
Hmm.
matchmaking, to corporate memories. If someone's worked in a job for a few years and they leave or they get fired, being able to replicate them so that their corporate memory isn't lost, their emails, their Slacks, their client deals, their projects, is another good one. We've got everything from influencer marketing to brand marketing to, imagine having, a particular celebrity on a particular brand's website being your personal like salesman.
Hmm.
There's so many opportunities for it, so many different like routes to take. Education's a huge one.
Yes, definitely.
Skills-based education, replicating educators or specific experts in a field to be able to share their experience globally in any language 24/7.
Hmm.
And especially when it comes to things like subject matter education. So you could have, and it completely equals the playing field globally. You can have like the top professor from the top university on a particular subject replicated and then essentially shared globally for a fraction of the cost of being able to go to that university or spend time learning with them, and actually being able to learn from their replica with all the latest teaching techniques, with all the latest like abilities to share that information. But the real magic source in what we're building is the fact that these replicas will actually learn from you as well.
Hmm.
So they adapt themselves to you as a user. Um, and that's where it's really cool. So everyone thinks of AI as this like responsive thing, but we actually want the AI to learn from you as well as you learning from it.
That's a very good idea. I mean, education is big on Sensei, and how you can train people and how can you enhance the education experience that is already there with the new technology. I think that's quite innovative. And overall, when I look at the Sensei, I see that innovation is coming through. When I look at the Sensei, I see that what kind of a future AI can have. So the technology you use and how you implement it is quite, I can say, futuristic actually.
Yeah, I mean, there's even lots of studies right now that the need for higher education, so anything
Hmm.
above the age of like 14, is really uh, pointless. Not pointless, but is outdated now.
Hmm.
So in the age of AI, when teenagers will resort to AI for everything anyway, at all these traditional subjects. There's no need for them for the masses. Whereas, more specialized subjects going forward will be, taught by AI, helped by AI, and it just makes schooling quite outdated. But education is super useful, but it's so broad. I mean, there's so many different like threads to pull on. That's kind of one of the biggest biggest problems for my job is staying focused, is staying avoiding getting too excited about this idea or that idea, and obviously the other big use case we haven't really touched on is just is kind of tackling loneliness. There's an international loneliness epidemic. People spend more time on their screens and internet rather than in person, and so being able to offer friendly, therapeutic, and informative chatbots and replicas for people to interact with doesn't necessarily tackle the fact that they're staring at a screen the whole time, but at least it can help with loneliness.
Yeah, as if they're interacting, they're really interacting, and that's important. So you have given us quite a bit of information about the use cases and the utility in the platform. But I want to also focus on the community and how users can benefit from the platform as well. So in that, Sensei token, SNSY, actually plays a really important role. So can you tell us how it empowers the users and contribute to the platform's development as well as the community engagement?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is where it gets really interesting. So even though so far what we talked about essentially describes any kind of like Web2 AI platform available for the average person, most of our team have actually worked in Web3 for the last 4 to 10 years. So we've got a really good amount of Web3 experience, and we realize that there's a lot that Web3 can bring to this that we could achieve with Web2, but not as well. So that's where we started building out our Web3 infrastructure. The main goal for this is retained ownership and monetization of your replica, as well as continuity of identity. So essentially, blockchain solution, even when this whole idea spanned from when I wrote 2 books about this digital replication and mind uploading and digital immortality technology about 6 years ago. But even back then, I wrote that blockchain would be a good solution to an identity issue. That is, when you have good enough replicas. So say we created, a replica of you, and that doesn't stop, someone else creating a replica, someone else creating a replica of you. And there could end up being thousands of replicas of you. But when they become more active and autonomous through AI agents down the line, so they can actually do things for you, at some point you're going to want to be able to identify which one is the one that represents you as officially. So that needs some kind of authorization. The only way to do that securely is really through blockchain. So some kind of blockchain ID between you and your replica, and then a second blockchain verification through when it actually acts on your behalf to prove and verify that it is the right replica acting on your behalf and not just some deep fake. And that's where it gets super interesting with regulation, ethics, and control. But the primary use for the users really is the retained ownership monetization. So in that instance, one of the use cases that we haven't talked about is interactive NPCs for gaming. So you could replicate yourself, and then that replica of you could be running around whichever metaverse game and whichever Web3 game, and people could interact with it. And there's value in that, there's value in the interactions are there, small value, but there is value in that data, that information being shared, and those replicas. So that obviously would come from an API call, which would be charged to the client, and then that charge would be converted into the SNSY token, which would then accrue in value for your replica on the Sensei platform. So on the back end, you've got this kind of data marketplace which interacts with a decentralized data storage system to access your data, to be able to license it out and use it should you want to. Obviously, this is another aspect of where the control and ownership comes in. So should you want to make money from it, it could be yourself, it could be you replying to your subscribers and followers comments and videos as you, and that again could be a use case for you to pay, and then that goes into the replica, or even just have a privately hosted replica that you charge a small subscription to as an interactive bot. Um, so there's value accrual in the data from multiple different avenues. Like it's not just direct interaction with the replica. It's also like the kind of non-private data that goes into it. So some of the more generic conversations are good for LLM training for open source LLMs and also just private LLMs, and they'll pay for that data. So there's no reason that we shouldn't pass that money on to the owner and user should they want to. So that all goes through our data marketplace, which enables the value accrual of the replicas. And also, if there is a particularly valuable replica, so we are going to mint the replicas themselves as in NFTs as well. So you could sell your replica to someone else who maybe sees value in it, and by doing so, you could essentially earn Sensei tokens that way as well. So there's so many different ways that the token gets used within the platform, as well as being able to pay for subscriptions as well. So there's so many different use cases for the token within the platform for value accrual for users in general, which is super exciting. And there's more coming all the time, so we're excited to get that implemented.
Yeah, and I can see you're really into what you're doing. You really wanted to realize these digital replicas, and you wanted to do it on the blockchain because you thought it's the perfect place to execute your action, execute these AIs, because in terms of digital property, you can easily incentivize the users. But there is, again, because there is a marketplace, so do you think it will impact the future of intellectual property and copyright concerns, as well as what about user consent and data privacy? You can briefly talk about these, maybe.
Briefly.
Yeah, because it would take a long time, I believe.
We could talk for hours on this.
Yeah.
IP, data privacy, authorization, and issues with, I guess, what replicas say, and I guess hallucinations from AI. All of it's super interesting in terms of regulatory and ethics standpoint. I think at some point that we already compromise our privacy for convenience.
Definitely.
We all use nice laptops. We
Yeah,
all sit
Google.
next.
Just if you're using Google, where you're selling your data, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So straight away. I mean, even just having a phone next to you, if they say they're not listening in, then that's just not true. So there is a convenience like trade-off that we all sacrifice every day against our privacy. And if you really believe in privacy, there's a way of doing that. You could just go live in the middle of nowhere and just not engage with any technology.
Surely.
It's easy enough to do. So yes, there is a trade-off, but at the same time, with a lot of these technological advances, people having their own replica as a personal assistant, as a tool for them to use and leverage themselves, people who use that technology will just fundamentally do better than people who don't. It's literally a replica of you that can interact with people globally 24/7 in any language, and just be you, but more and everywhere all the time. When we start, so this is where it gets really interesting. When we actually start implementing these AI agents from Fetch, they'll actually be able to do things for you. It'll start simple. It'll be like, book me, my favorite restaurant next month, or whatever, something simple like that. But down the line, I mean, the possibilities are really endless. It can literally do anything. You could do online. You could have it manage your assets after you die. You can have it trading for you. You can have it following whatever you would want to do for whatever reason, and that's when it gets really exciting. But obviously, the privacy and IP issue is difficult. And at some point there will become an ethical concern that, what if your replica does become so good that it's indistinguishable from you? And then what if it then does go out and interact with the world, and from that additional user impact, it actually starts to evolve in its own way that's separate to you? Or if there is some way of regulating so that your replica has any kind of legal or regulatory right to act as an independent version for you, a bit like a company. It acts as an independent entity for most people. If it has any kind of like legal right in some sense, how does that look, and what if it does end up becoming so different to you? Privacy concerns, IP concerns. I mean, I think that there's obviously people are worried about having that data out there, and I think that having a good end-to-end encryption with decentralized data storage actually makes it more secure for people to interact with, rather than some centralized system that can be controlled, manipulated, changed. But obviously, as soon as it's on chain, it's out there and open. So there may be issues. There may be issues there. But I guess as I've kind of started off saying, there are big companies that have a lot of data on us already. So is it better that it's kind of decentralized and open, or is it better that it's centralized in some internal system somewhere? So there's obviously there is a trade-off, and
Yeah.
we want people to, and we want our users to actually have the flexibility and the option to choose, and keep the privacy should they want to. And that's the thing. So if they want to, we have an option so that they can just keep their replica completely private and available only to them and anyone they authorize to access it. But if people do want to monetize it and use it for what they can be used for, then that's where it gets really exciting. And sure, that's where it gets that's where it becomes more open and available to all.
Yeah, definitely. At least you're directly incentivized, you're directly monetized by doing that. In other cases, in big companies, when you use their devices, you're not even monetized. They just sell your data. And another thing, I also agree that if we are so concerned with privacy, if we take serious measures, if we don't accept the trade-off, this would I mean hinder the technological development. Yeah. So speaking of these technological developments, you can tell me, how does Sensei intend to leverage AI and machine learning advancements to enhance the capabilities of the realism of these digital replicas? And you can also touch upon what you have on the roadmap and what you want to develop.
Yes, this is where it's really cool. Obviously AI is advancing at crazy speed. It makes crypto look slow somehow.
Yeah.
I mean, where it's going to get to, I mean, depends on individual descriptions of what AGI is and what qualifies as AGI. But AGI coming up is really a super exciting thing for me. I mean, it could be awful, could be, but at the same time, I think it's going to be great. AI involvement in the whole is just so fast, and I think crypto actually does complement it really, really well. I think the speed and accountability of transactions just helps for in an AI world for international cheap transactions to happen securely, which in both in terms of data and in terms of finance. So I think that's a big leverage for the world of AI that we're living in now. In terms of our own roadmap and development, so we're super excited. So even now, anyone can go into the platform and they can replicate themselves, and they can replicate and they can create characters or pretty much whatever they want. So it's still clunky and buggy, and it's still a bit restricted, but we're working on it. Pretty soon we'll be able to have file and photo and video upload, so that you can upload WhatsApp conversations, your Twitter feed, pretty much any kind of documentation, so that you can use that information, and it will be formed into the replica, which makes the training a lot easier. At the moment, it's very interactive, chatting to the training bot, but being able to upload large documents en masse is going to be great. Pretty soon we'll have video output, so you'll actually be able to almost have a conversation like this with one of the replicas. We have a demo coming up very soon of what that looks like, and it's
very exciting.
Super exciting. It's super scary. I mean, obviously, I've gone first, as I should.
Yeah.
And when you interact with this video version of me, it's amazing, because people just I send the videos to my friends, and they half of them can't even tell that it's the AI or real.
We can try to redo this AMA with the video. I don't know. It would probably work. It will probably work.
Yeah. It'll be slow and fidgety, and it's got a lot more autism than me. It kind of it twitches every it's just as if it just needs to remind you that it's AI. It will talk like this for a little while, and it'll be super friendly and nice and respond in really polite ways, and then it will go
yeah
for no reason. So that's cool. And then beyond that, for the Star Wars fans out there, I mean, where we see this going is essentially Jedi Force ghosts, in VR. So being able to actually interact with um, technically what will be like digital projections of the replicas,
Hmm.
but as as talking heads within VR. So you'll be able to interact with the replicas that way. But then yeah, so once the replication gets good enough, and that's not too far off, once the video and VR comes in, then there's not much more we can do with that apart from maybe start adding into the robots out there. The real strength and use case just comes in refining down how you apply autonomy to them, and also how you um, enable them to interact with each other and actually start earning money and be recognized
Hmm.
as some kind of legal entity. Which I mean, it will happen. It's a long way off, but those are the kind of like big picture roadmaps that we're looking
Hmm.
for.
Yeah, very cool. Actually, I was going to ask you about how you want to stay ahead of the technology and like be cutting edge and relevant, but you actually kind of answered my question in a way. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, obviously, again, AI moves so fast. It's just focusing on big picture, focus on the
Hmm.
mission, focus on what we're trying to do, and just keep driving towards that. There are other people doing the same, and it's a noble cause. I mean, like I said, I wrote books on this years ago, and I can't imagine working on anything else. So at the end of the day, it's one of those things that I want to see happen.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be us who makes it, but we will continue to build it. But as long as we get there, I'm really excited to have this technology available for people.
Yeah, very cool. So let's go back to the talk about community and the token as well. So
Mhm.
including potential investors and users already, because you have a big user base already for a technology that's very new. And how can they participate in the governance? And what is the future direction of Sensei token?
Sure. Yeah, no, we're very lucky to have I think over 25,000
Hmm.
monthly users now already, which is great, and our community is just growing every day. I
Hmm.
mean, it's something like 70,000 now all
Hmm.
around. And it's great. And it's great seeing some of the conversations come in. A lot of the same kind of questions, which is always interesting and always good to talk about. But yeah, so people can get involved by going to any of the Sensei apps and pages. Getting involved in our communities on most channels as Ask Sensei. Sensei is spelled SENSAY. In terms of things like governance, in terms of participation, I mean, the users, like I said, the main platform is kind of built in a way that's very Web 2, but with a Web 3
Hmm.
infrastructure. So the Web 3 element at this early stage is more of an investment, or at least it's kind of a buying into the belief and the future technology and promise of the platform. The governance will be a lot more gamified, a lot more fun than a lot of other governance
Hmm.
systems. So instead of it'll be used for kind of which replica should we make next, or which use case should we explore, or which or kind of voting on community created replicas and characters. So enabling like more of a gamified version of governance in terms of a community governance, because the foundational technology we're going to keep building anyway, right?
Hmm.
So there's not there's not a huge amount to govern in that. Replication is replication. There may be the occasional decision that we're not entirely sure about. We'll put it onto a governance vote, but the rest will be more about the fun aspect of it.
Hmm.
I think governance is often overlooked. There's a lot of unfortunate centralization and a lot of governance within Web3. A lot of like overriding control, or just high quotas or high quorum of votes that are needed to achieve any kind of consensus.
Hmm.
I think that's super unfortunate, because it gets controlled and gamed, and it's not what it should be. So we're just flipping that on its head, and we're just openly going to say, like, in terms of the development, we welcome community involvement and participation, and anyone who does want to get involved, we have those conversations very seriously. Um, because there are always people who do want to be a part of what they're buying tokens for. and we appreciate that. And we've already actually brought a few onto the team.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like the overall governance, yeah, I mean it's going to be for more fun things. Tokens can also be used for staking, obviously
Mm-hmm.
buying subscriptions, and then interacting within the platform itself. So whether they want to trade replicas, whether they want to use it for certain additional credits or buying longer subscriptions within the platform as well, that will be available.
Yeah, very cool. It's actually really great that you want to keep the governance like the governance, not being a centralized force, which is problematic, as you said, in the crypto community these days, especially. So okay, actually, you've answered a lot of questions. It's been a really great talking to you. You gave us very insightful analysis about what you want to do and where you come from and how you built the technology. And already, as we have told you, you have a great community already, building still, but people are engaging, people are building replicas, having chat with replicas, and also they are also engaged in the other activities in the platform which they can do. So has there been any impactful moments for Sensei digital replicas? Any stories you want to share, like the funeral example? That's a great example of how can this be used. Any other stories like that?
Yeah, quite a few really. So obviously, where the dementia use case is super impactful. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, seeing people just amazed at the level of technology and replication, and being able to, it's almost like a relief for some being able to, and seeing their face when this happens, like being able to see that they're genuinely moved by the fact that their family will
Mm-hmm.
have something of them afterwards. And there's I mean, death is super complicated, obviously, for a lot of people, and people have very different reactions and connections with dying. And it's for some people this is seen as a bit morbid, some
Mm-hmm.
is seen as a way of being able to tackle grief, and some is just a nice thing to have for not necessarily themselves but maybe for future generations. And that's what's amazing about this. Like, we are the first generation to have enough data on us that a AI version of us can live on, generations to come and
Mm-hmm.
interact with generations to come. You've got like, typically in the last few centuries, at least, maybe the last few millennia, most generations are forgotten after 2 or 3 generations.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on culture, but typically people forget. Like, they might know who their great grandparents were as their names, maybe what they did for a job at most, but they don't know who they were as people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, very rarely, sometimes if they're lucky. So having the ability to interact with future generations means that it gives future generations the ability to interact with us as who we are,
Mm-hmm.
and to get to know us, and to have that kind of connection that we don't have the ability to have with generations past.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it's super, super powerful in terms of like what this can mean on a bigger scale. Obviously, that doesn't help us now, because we're obviously very like all a bit self-centered, and we want to think about what things can do for us right now. But it's on a bigger scale, having these replicas down the line, having essentially interactive family trees where you can
Mm-hmm.
go and find out about your ancestors, is super exciting for like the ability to essentially have calls like this, but with past generations, for whatever, maybe advice, maybe just for a chat, maybe just to find out about them, find out about where you come from. And that's amazing. um so yeah, so in terms of like the impact for what this can be for users, the technology as a whole has so many use cases. So the impact is obviously
Mm-hmm.
very different, but the starting point of dementia care, we've seen some amazing results already.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Beyond that, I mean, yeah, we've built about 200 replicas for various use cases ourselves. That demo different things, everything from education to salesmen, to help with like finance, with law, with marketing, to we've got we've got a couple of joke ones in there for fun. Like, we've got one where you can go and just abuse Donald Trump, which is quite funny. There's ones like Sleeping Beauty, who just will
Mm-hmm.
not reply to you. She'll just snore back at you. So there are some good ones in there. There's a few crypto people in there now as well, especially around our public sale coming up. So there's it's some interesting ones we've created, and it's always interesting seeing who people talk to and for what reason. Yeah, it's always everyone always interacts with different replicas, so it's always interesting to see and talk to about who they spoke to and what they said.
Yeah. The more I think about it, the more I brainstorm about it, the more ideas actually I come up with how you can use these replicas. And yeah, you've given us quite a bit of examples. Is there anything else you want to add? I think we're about to conclude the AMA.
No, just yeah, for anyone watching, we've got a public sale on now. We started this week on
Mm-hmm.
the 19th, and with Gempad, and it's sold out in 4 minutes. So if you want to get involved, we've got engine starter on Monday,
Mm-hmm.
community tasks on Wednesday, pools on Friday, and then Fjord Foundry not long after that, before we do our IDO. So it's super busy, super exciting time. Please do get involved. And those, we're doing only a public sale. There's no pre-sale, seed round, VC, KOL round, nothing. It's all open to everyone, which is, I think, quite rare in this space.
Definitely.
And yeah, please do jump into the communities and ask any further questions. We'd like to hear them.
No, very cool. So, yes, you're very busy at these times, I can understand, but thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us in this AMA session. I think it's been really great for the community, and it's been really great talking to you as well. I feel like if I don't stop you, you can talk about AI for hours and hours. But again, you're very busy. So thank you very much for this insightful AMA session. And if you're interested in Sensei, go out and check out their Twitter account. You will find all the sale information and all the questions you can ask about Sensei. You can ask on Twitter and other social channels. And well, thank you, THOMSON, for joining us today. And I hope to see you in the next one.
Thanks so much.